Google just updated AI Studio, making it both cheaper and easier than ever to use. But the crazy part is, most people don't even know what you can do with this. You can use it to create AI powered apps, images with no watermarks, and custom AI text to speech, all without paying anything extra and without writing a single line of code. You may have looked at AI Studio before and felt a little bit intimidated by it, but once you understand the basics, you'll see it's actually very easy and very powerful. Start by coming over to aistudio.google.com. This was originally built for developers, but once you understand the basics, anyone can really use this. And it just got insanely more valuable with the addition of this button right here. If you click on this upgrade button, it will give you two different options. The first one was the only one that was available in the past. It's the option to link an API key, and that would cost you extra on top of your Google AI subscription. But now you can link your subscription to unlock higher limits and better models at no extra cost. So if you already have a Google AI subscription, like a Pro subscription that costs $20 a month, or an Ultra that's $250 a month, then when you come over to AI Studio, you may not see that button over here on the left at all. That means that you are signed in with your Google account and it already knows you have an AI subscription. But if you're not paying for Gemini yet, you can either continue on the free plan. They actually have quite generous limits on the free plan, or you can upgrade. You want to upgrade to either Pro or Ultra though, because those are the only two plans that actually give you increased limits inside of Google AI Studio. And then once you sign up for a plan, that button will disappear. That lets you know that it was successful in linking up your Google AI subscription with AI Studio. Now let's start to play with this. Over here on the left is the menu section to navigate around. There are primarily two different sections we are going to be looking at today, which are Playground and Build. Dashboard is where you can create those API keys, which we're not going to use in this video. So we'll start inside of Playground. You can think of this as an overpowered Gemini chat. But while the standard Gemini chat is built to be as simple as possible to use, the AI Studio Playground gives you maximum control. It can do things in here, in fact, that are impossible inside of Gemini. And all of that starts not in the chat box down here, but in the settings over here on the top right. If you click on these sliders, this will open up the run settings. The setting at the top is the model picker. So you can select this and choose exactly which model you want to run when you are using this chat. So this is a lot different than using just Gemini natively, because here you can really only choose between Fast Thinking and Pro. And if you want to create images, you can click on create images, but you can't exactly pick which AI model to use. It's just a lot more customizable to come into AI Studio. So again, clicking on the model here, you can see all the different models that you can choose between, and there are a lot of them. So you can filter this down if you just want the Gemini models here. We just have the live models. You can use the image generation models, the video generation models, and the audio models. So let's give one of these a quick try just so you understand sort of how this works. We'll choose images. And then here it will give you a description of each of these different models. So for instance, this one right here is called Gemini 3.1 Flash Image Preview, but that's more commonly known as Nano Banana 2. Here you can see some information about it. And up here, you'll notice that this one is paid. Now, in the past, again, if you wanted to use a paid model, you needed an API key, but that's no longer the case. So let's try this one out. I'll select Nano Banana 2. There are a few other settings here on the right, but let's ignore those for now. Let's just come over to the chat box and I'll tell it to create something very simple for us, a sloth, and I'll run that. So here's our image of the sloth, and I want to point out two interesting things about this. First, this didn't cost us anything extra on top of our Google AI subscription, and also there's no watermark on the bottom right. If you create an image inside of Gemini and you're on the Pro plan, it's going to have a watermark on it, but you don't have watermarks inside of Google AI Studio as long as you attach your Google AI subscription. So that is a huge reason to use AI Studio whenever you're generating images so that you don't have that watermark on the bottom right-hand corner. But let's run this again, but we'll actually change some of the settings on the right. So we'll start a new chat. I'll click on the top right where it says new chat. We already have Nano Banana 2 selected. We'll skip system instructions for now, but we'll come down to the output format. There are two options here, one for images and text and one for images only. So when you create an image inside of Gemini, sometimes it will create just the image for you, and other times it will create the image and have like a bunch of annoying text where it says, here's an image of a sloth and why you should love this image. That can be annoying when you just want the image. So here you can select image only and it's just going to give you the image. Then we have temperature. I suggest you do leave this on 1. This basically changes the creativity of it, but the default is 1. I would leave it there. But the settings that are really exciting that you now have access to inside of AI Studio that you don't have inside of Gemini are some of these. So first, aspect ratio, you can actually pick on this dropdown between all these different aspect ratios. And inside of Gemini, if we create a new chat, you can tell it an aspect ratio, but there's no selector for it. So this will really make sure that it's exactly the way that you want. So I'll choose 16:9 for this one. You can also choose the resolution, which is, again, something you can't do in Gemini. So if you want a really high res image, you can select 4K. Then there are two other options here. The first one is thinking level. So the higher this is, the more time it's going to think before it actually starts generating the image. That can sometimes help with the image generation depending on what it is. So let's turn that one on high, and then we'll ground it with Google Search. That will allow it to actually pull from Google Search to make sure that the image is accurate. So for this example, I will tell it Pearl Street in Boulder, sunset time. And I'm choosing this one because this is near me, so I'm very familiar with what it looks like. And I'm curious how accurate it's going to be if it's able to maybe pull from Google Search to get an idea of what Pearl Street in Boulder looks like. So here it is. Again, this is 4K, the correct aspect ratio, which is 16:9. And this is not perfect. This doesn't quite look like Pearl Street in Boulder, but it gets the vibe very, very well. This is what the street sort of looks like, where it's closed off and they have like lights strung up and all these shops close together. A lot of these shops are actually there, like Pete's Coffee, Lululemon, and the Boulder Bookstore. So it does a pretty good job of getting it right. And then, of course, if you want to use this image, you can download it right here. Let's start a new chat, and I want to show you some other stuff that you can't do natively inside of Gemini. So click again on the model selector on the top right. And this time, we'll come over to where it says audio. There are a few options in here. One of them is to produce music using Lyria 3. This is something you can do in Gemini, but you can also do it inside of Google AI Studio. But for this one, I want to show you Gemini 3.1 Flash TTS Preview, which basically just means text to speech. So let's select this one, and you'll notice this opens up a new dashboard like this. And we'll just select right here where it says turn text into natural sounding speech. If you click on that, you can type in what you want the AI to read out for you. So I could have one speaker here saying, hey, how are you doing today? And then I can add a new speech block because I want a different speaker. And this one might say, I'm doing pretty well, just a bit tired today. And then we can return back to the first speaker and say something like, did you not get enough sleep last night? So once we have all the text written out, you'll notice here that it goes back and forth between two different speakers. We have speaker 1, who is Zephyr, then speaker 2, and then speaker 1 again. And you can select what these speakers sound like. So let's change speaker 1's voice. I'll select speaker 1, Zephyr. That will then open up the settings on the right. And you can listen to all of these and choose which one you like. So let's, for instance, listen to this first one.
What idea do you want to bring to life?
Here's another one.
What sparks your interest?
I like that one. So I'll select him, and then I can close this out. So you can see that has now been updated. So speaker 1 is now Arkid, I believe his name is. And then this is speaker 2. So let's change speaker 2 to maybe this speaker that we previewed before. Great. So there's a lot more you can do with this. So maybe down here where speaker 1 seems a little bit concerned, you can actually put into brackets how they're feeling. So I'll put in here concerned. And let's now listen to this. I'll click on run on the bottom right.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Just a bit tired today.
Oh, really? Did you not get enough sleep last night?
So I'm always really impressed at how well these turn out. Once you're happy with that, you can always click right here to actually download this audio file so you can use it however you want. Let's try something else though. I'll return back to Google AI Studio and we'll again come up to the settings on the right and select our model picker. And this time we'll select Gemini because I want to show you all the settings that you can unlock inside of AI Studio with a regular AI chat. So I'll select Gemini 3 Flash Preview. It's a fast model, but it's a really good one. So we'll select that one. And then notice all these additional settings that have now appeared. So the first one right here is called System Instructions. These are a permanent set of instructions that the AI must follow no matter what happens in the chat. So it saves you from having to remind the AI of its role every time that you prompt it. So you can say something like never use emojis, for instance, or always be very concise, something like that, so that you never have to repeat those instructions and you can get it to respond exactly the way that you want. The next setting is for temperature. You can think of this as a creativity slider. The higher the number is, the more creative it's going to be. The lower it is, the more predictable the AI will be and the more it will tend to follow your instructions. So you do want somewhat of a balance here for this one, which is why it's typically left on 1 by default. Then we have our thinking level. So inside of Gemini itself, if you start a new chat, you'll see you have thinking, you have fast, you have pro, but there's not a ton of control over how much you have Gemini actually think. Here you can change that. So there are 4 different ones: minimal, low, medium, or high. And you want it to have more thinking the more complex the question or problem is. It allows the model to pause and process before it actually responds. Then under that, we have our tools. The first one is called structured outputs. This forces the AI to respond in a specific format, like always respond with a table. You want to use this when you need to pull data from a document and plug it into another app or a spreadsheet, for instance, without cleaning up all the conversational filler. So you can tell it always respond in a certain way. That way you can just copy it and paste it where you need. Under that, we have code execution, we have function calling. We're going to skip those ones. But let's talk about grounding with search. This connects the AI to the internet live via Google search to verify facts. It's really nice to leave this on most of the time. This will increase the accuracy of the results that the AI chat sends you. Similarly, grounding with Google Maps is great when you're planning a trip or finding businesses in a specific area, because again, it will be more accurate. And then finally, we have URL context. This lets you point the AI at a specific website to analyze its content. So it's really great for when you have to summarize articles or when you want to chat with specific articles. So let's put this all together now with an example. We have Gemini 3 Flash Preview selected. I think that's good for what we're going to do. It's fast and it supports the latest tools. We are going to set up system instructions. So I will tell it, you are a world-class YouTube strategist specializing in the AI tech niche. Your tone is analytical, direct, and focused on high retention tactics. You never give generic advice. Every suggestion must be backed by current search trends or specific content gaps that you find. Now, with those instructions written out, I will give this one a name like YouTube strategist. That way I can use it again in the future. Closing that out and returning to the temperature, and I'll just leave this on the default setting of 1. I think it's a really good balance, so I think it's fine right there. For thinking level, I want this one to be on high because I want it to spend extra time thinking through the search results before it gives me the final strategy. For this first run, I don't want any kind of structured outputs. If I want to change that in the future, I can, but for right now, I'll leave that off. But I do want to leave on grounding with Google search. I don't need maps though, and I don't need URL context, so I'll turn those ones off. So now we have the AI chat set up exactly the way that we want. So coming into the chat box, I can put in a query like, search Google for the top 5 most viewed videos released in the last 7 days about Gemini versus Claude. List their titles and why you think they perform well, find content gaps, and provide suggested thumbnails and titles. And then here's the response that it gave us. You can see right here, it thought, which is exactly what we told it to do with a high thinking level. And here's the output. And if I like this output, then next time I could turn on structured output and tell it to give me an output that looks exactly like this. So that is Playground in a nutshell. It's basically an overpowered Gemini chat that allows you to really be particular about which model is being used and how you want that model to act. So if you want more than just the basics that you get with Gemini, this is the place to come. Or if you want to be able to use the text to speech or images without any watermarks, that's also what Playground is for. But let's move on now to Build. This one is really fun because it allows you to create these AI-powered apps. So click on the drop-down next to Build to expand it, and then click on Gallery. This will show you some ideas of different things that you can make with this, different games, websites, and digital experiences. So I really suggest that you spend a few minutes playing around with these to get familiar with them. Let's look, for instance, at this laser tag game. So I'll click on it to open it up, and we'll click Play Now. So you see, this is a multiplayer game where I can move around, I can shoot the other players, like I just killed him, and I'm sure if I spend enough time, they'll shoot me as well. All right, I guess he misses. There we go. So that's a fun game. Let's look at another one. This one is called Lyria Rhythm. So the last game was built with AI, but it doesn't actually use AI when you're playing the laser tag game. This one does. It will generate AI music on the fly, and then it's basically like Guitar Hero. So let's pick a track like this K-pop one. All right, I think you get the idea. And there are just so many different examples to get inspired. Here's a GeoSeeker app. Here's something that does prompt to JSON. Here's Lyria Studio, a Lyria alarm clock. So lots of different apps that can be made with this. But let's create our own. I will click on the left here where it says build, and this is where you can get started. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be vibe coding. That means you just describe in plain English what you want the AI to build, and it will build it for you. It's really not that complicated. And AI Studio has gotten some updates that make this even easier. So just begin describing the app that you want to create. I wanted to create an app called Time Warp that generates images of how you would look in different aesthetics from past decades. As you begin to type, you will notice that AI Studio actually fills in the prompt for you with suggestions. You can see that gray and gray right here. So if I like that suggestion, I just have to click on Tab. Then if I want some more suggestions, press spacebar, wait for it to load, and there's another suggestion. If I like that one, press Tab. So you can keep going with this until you get the prompt exactly the way that you want, and you can make any changes in here, of course. Once you're happy with the prompt, just click on Build. Here you can see it is now getting to work. So the AI is building this out. Now what makes this unique from other AI app builders is that not only is this building the app for you using AI, but this will be an AI powered app. It will use an image generation model to actually power it. While it's working on the back end, over here, it gives you design previews that you can choose between. So you can tell it exactly what you want it to look like. There are a lot of choices here. I don't like this first one. This second one looks really nice. Third one looks really sleek. This one looks great. Let's go with, I think, this one. So once you find a design you like, click on Select this design. Here's our new app, Time Warp. Let's give it a try. So you can scroll down first of all and kind of get an idea for what it looks like. But we'll click on Start Your Journey and we'll drop a photo in. And now let's change my image to look like I'm in the Renaissance. And you see we got an error message saying that my Gemini API quota was exceeded. And I'm actually really glad that this happened because it allows me to explain to you the pricing structure now that you have a Google AI subscription connected with your AI Studio account. Like I said before, that integration now gives you higher limits and access to better models, but it's not unlimited. So the confusing thing is that they're not super clear on which models you have access to and which ones you don't. So I'm just returning back to Playground so I can show you the different models again. Over here, again, remember, some of them are paid, some of them aren't, and it isn't crystal clear which ones we have access to and like what the limits are. I've actually spoken to one of the team members who works on AI Studio, and he wasn't even really clear on it. So we'll make this very easy. Basically, if you try to run an app or a prompt inside a Playground and you get a message saying that you've exceeded your quota, that means you can't use that model or you've already used it too much. And the easy fix for that is just to change models. So I'm going to ask it right here, what image generation model does this use? And it says it uses Gemini 3.1 Flash Image Preview. So returning back to the Google AI Studio homepage and into Playground, we can open up the settings on the right where we have all the different models, and we'll look for Gemini 3.1 Flash Image Preview, which we see is Nano Banana 2. So we've already used that one too much today, it seems like. So let's pick a weaker model. So we have Nano Banana, the regular one right here. It's called Gemini 2.1 Flash Image. And you see that one doesn't say paid. So that one we can use a lot more. So if you click on this button right here, that will copy it to the clipboard. And now I can return back to Time Warp and tell it, change the model to Gemini 2.5 Flash Image. And great, you see it has now successfully been updated. So let's give it another shot. I'll click on Start Your Journey. I'll upload my image again. And when I select Renaissance this time, you'll notice it's actually working. And there's my Renaissance image. Now, if you want to make any changes to this app, you can do it exactly the way I just showed you. You can come over to the chat and tell it what changes you want to make. But you can also select this tool right here called Focus Mode. This will allow you to pinpoint exactly what change you want. So let's say I don't like this logo. I can select the logo. You'll see it then populates right here. So I can tell it, I don't like this logo, and maybe tell it what changes I want it to make, and it'll know exactly what logo I'm talking about. So now we have a new logo. It looks great. So it's that easy to make changes to anything that's made inside a build here. Let's do another example. Oh, and by the way, you can always share things by clicking on the top right here where it says share. You can also click on publish. So there's lots of different things that you can do with these apps once you create them. But let's go back to the start, and I want to show you one more example. So this time, I basically want to create a NotebookLM clone. So I'll tell it to create an app that allows me to create these different boards, and each board will have a section to input links. So then the app will pull in information from those links to use as knowledge for that board, and then I can chat with the boards. So let's ask it to build that, and we'll choose the design preference once that pops up, and then I'll show you the end result. So this is what I wanted to show you. AI Studio has the ability to create apps for you with a database, and this is something called Firebase. You don't need to know exactly what that means, but it just basically means that people can log in and use the app. So if you click on Enable Firebase, that will give it the permission to do that, and you'll see what that looks like in 1 second once it's finished. So our app source board is now ready, and notice before you can start using it, you have to sign in, and it's sign in with Google. That's part of what Firebase is. So I just clicked on it, I signed in with Google, so now I'm inside of it and I can create my first board. So I'll click on New Board. I will name this one Gold Panning, because let's say I want to learn about how to pan for gold. So I can say learning about panning for gold, and then click on Create Board. So here it is. Let's open it up. And unfortunately, there's nothing here. So we need to tell Gemini to now fix this. So over here on the left, I will tell it. I created a board, named it, and then clicked on it, and it opened a blank page. So I'll let it now fix that issue. All right, it's now been updated, so let's test it again. I'll open up the gold panning board. That looks a lot better. So let's add in a knowledge base. I'll click on that, and this is where we can add in the links. So I found all these articles about how to pan for gold. Let me just copy down some of these links and throw them in. There's one. Here's the second one. And here's the third one. Great. And now let's come over to the chat, and I'll ask it, how do I get started? And there we go. To get started with gold panning, you should focus on gathering the right tools. So just like that, we were able to easily make what is essentially a NotebookLM clone. From here, it really just comes down to your imagination. Come back to the start and just tell it in plain English any app that you can possibly imagine. Use the suggestions that it comes up with in tabs to help you with your prompt. But then, yeah, go wild, have some fun, and let me know in the comment section down below what cool apps you've been able to develop using Build inside of Google AI Studio. I think you have a pretty good understanding now of how to get started with Google AI Studio. There's still a lot more that you can do with this, but this will get you 80% of the way there. You don't have to overcomplicate this. Just use AI Studio for all those things that you can't use Gemini for natively. That way you're going to get the best of both worlds and be able to get exactly what you want out of both tools. If you found this video helpful, the only thing I ask is that you leave a comment down below letting me know that, and maybe give this video a thumbs up. Things like that really help me out and motivate me to make more videos like this, and I do read every single comment myself. So thanks to everyone who's leaving comments. Then if you want to learn more about some other AI tools that I love, check out this video. This is a video all about how to use NotebookLM, that tool I mentioned before. It's one of my favorites. I still think it is way underappreciated. So if you want to learn like everything you can do with NotebookLM, check out this video right here, and then I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.